What's up, Wall fans, Common Sensors, and of course, Brewery fans? That's right, it is I, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, with, of course, another Go Tell It to the Brewery beer review. I've got a great one for this edition, I do, and we're coming up on Craft Beer Week. Hopefully I will be able to get this actual video up for Craft Beer Week, but we're coming up on it, and it's great because I've got some awesome beers to share with all of you that are really super, super independent craft beers, and this is one of them. This is actually from Boulder Beer Company. Boulder Beer Company, and it is the Mojo IPA. Mojo IPA. Now, if you couldn't figure out where Boulder Beer Company was from, they are from Boulder, Colorado. I know, right there in the title. It's amazing. They make it easy on you. And this is an interesting brewery. The interesting part is they are actually the very first microbrewery in Colorado. The very first. They actually received the 43rd official brewing license for the United States of America. So they are like, out of all the brewing licenses, think about all the microbreweries that are around nowadays. All the brewing licenses that have gone out, they were only the 43rd and the very first craft brewery in Colorado. So I found that extremely interesting. They actually started in 1979. Two professors from Colorado State, University of Colorado, not Colorado State. They've looked, I confuse them. I haven't spent enough time in Colorado to know the differences. But from University of Colorado, two professors got together in 1979, got that 43rd official beer brewing license from the United States, and took off with it. And then in the 90s is when they really kind of started getting bigger. They were just doing one kind of brew in their microbrewery, and in the 90s is when they really started to expand and had multiple barrels and everything else, and that's when beers like this Mojo IPA came into effect, which is a super tasty IPA. Super tasty. A little bit of citrusness to it. Citrusness. I'm going to call that a word because Lagunitas has been using it. A little bit of citrusness to it, but not too much. And I would say this is similar to like a West Coast IPA. Truly like a West Coast California IPA. It's got a lot of that kind of flavor in it. And I've been enjoying it. But what I do enjoy most is the fact that Boulder Beer Company is a true microbrew. Been around since 1979. Really blew up in the 90s. Now they have about 50 beer brewing vats, barrels, however they actually do that with the brewing stuff. And the other interesting thing about Boulder Brewing Company is that they do barrel-aged beers. Barrel-aged beers. If you're not familiar with these, check them out. Do a little research. I'm not going to get into it. We've actually gotten into it a little bit more on one of our other beer reviews for a brewery that uses the English aging process in their barrels. And Boulder Beer Company is doing something similar. So they have limited run beers that are actually barrel aged. Like I said, I'm not going to get into that, but think about, whiskeys and wine and that kind of stuff that's all aged. We've reached this point in beer brewing where it's very similar to wine. You can actually age it. You can cellar store it as opposed to needing it to be refrigerated and keeping it fresh and everything else. You can actually age it and store it in a cellar and all that interesting stuff. So if you're in the Boulder area, go on down, check them out. I don't think you can actually get the barrel aged beers like distributed outside of Boulder, but if you go into their tasting room, their actual brewery, you will be able to catch one of those barrel-aged beers, and that is an absolute treat, I can tell you that right now. If you find a brewery that's doing something like that, something unique, and putting a lot of time and effort into their beers, take advantage of it. So if you're in the Boulder area, check them out. But I do highly, highly recommend the Mojo IPA from Boulder Beer Company. Interestingly enough, I get these beer shipments, and when I have a smaller brewery like Boulder Beer Company, I usually say, I don't think you can find these outside of Boulder, or maybe you can, head down there. However, if you're in Southern California, I think you actually can find this one. I was over at my local little beer shop, old-fashioned beer soda shop here in Highland Park, California, and they had some Boulder Beer Company beers. So you might be able to find this one outside of Colorado, or at least west of the Mississippi. Mississippi tends to be this dividing line when it comes to all kind of media and beer and we'll get into that on some podcast some other time, but you might be able to find this one near you, or, just go head on down to wherever you get your beer, ask them if they can order it. Boulder Beer Company, Mojo IPA. They have a few different beers that you can check out, and I highly recommend this one, very similar to a West Coast IPA. And remember, Wall fans, Common Sensors, and of course, brewery fans, no matter what you're drinking, no matter where you're drinking, no matter who you're drinking it with, and no matter why you're drinking that particular thing, always drink with common sense.